that a structure has to be fancy or complicated. I am a big believer in the standard model of speeches, what I call the standard model, and that is to tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them at the way out the door what they just heard. Just as simple as that. And you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't because you're all professional speechwriters, you would be surprised, I know I am certainly surprised, at the number of speeches I see year after year that adhere to no clear structure. Now, on the matter of these big points in the middle, opening, which is the three, you just name them. Just name them. In the end, on the way out, just say them again. In the middle, you've got these three big points. And there's a nice technical sounding term for each of these and how we back them up. And I think this will help a lot. Each of the three big points that you're going to make in a speech can be called a subjective assertion. A subjective assertion. The things that support the subjective assertion: objective evidence. Objective evidence. Now, my grad students always have to stop and see who knows what subjective and objective mean. But since you all actually do this for a living, I'm going to skip right past it. And I'll put this in an example. In fact, this was an example we did last night in class. So look, we were talking about the president giving a speech about the economy, about the stimulus bailout bill. And we said that the purpose of his speech, if we were going to write a speech for him, the purpose of the speech would be, please pass the bailout. America needs the bailout. America wants this money. The economy needs this money. Some variation of that. And then the president might offer three big ideas to support why America needs it. Number one, subjective assertion. This bill creates jobs. That is a subjective assertion, because there are people who subjectively say that's not true, or they say it's not as true as something else. It is a subjective assertion. This bill creates jobs. I back that, if I'm the president, with objective evidence. I can say, this spending of $2.7 million in Iowa will create a job will create 100 jobs by putting money in the pockets of a construction firm to build this section of highway. Objective evidence. It cannot be disputed. You see, we sort of have a pattern. We have this overall big idea supported by three tent poles. And then each of the tent poles, when we think of those as a big idea, they're supported by objective evidence. And those are the leaves on the trees, those are the concrete pebbles, that's the chat in the driveway, that's the hardcore stuff. I believe in this. And that's all you can really get out of a speech audience. So then to come away going, I believe in this. If you want them to memorize facts, send them an email. If you want to be able to argue the point as well as you can, send them talking points in a white paper. If you want them to believe you, give them a speech. Make subjective assertions, back it up with objective evidence. Because while they can argue with your subjective assertions, they cannot argue with your evidence. And since this is an oral game, it's happening very quickly. And we'll pause to try to take down your evidence. There's a technique in PR called setting fires, basically. This is sort of a controlled way to do that. Evidence, 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 evidence. Sometimes, and this is dirty pool, stealing a base, whatever phrase you like. By offering so much evidence, people begin to believe that whatever the subjective assertion is true, simply because they have hit, the word I said before, a preponderance of evidence. Just to recap at the top and the bottom, as I say, be sure to tell them what is coming at the top. And you don't have to use fancy words. In fact, the fancier it is, the harder it is to find. Don't wrap it in a bunch of paper and ribbons. Put it out there. There is nothing wrong with plain speaking. Ain't nothing wrong with it. I'm a big believer in starting the speech process by making a spec sheet. And that is just a list of all the things that you might put on that you might need to assemble before you begin writing. It'll make the writing easier for you. It'll set all your expectations up front. It will give people something to aim at, whether that's the person who's working the room These are some of the things you want to put on a spec sheet. You want to put the speaker. Sounds obvious, but I'd put it on there. The date, the time. It's not just enough to put the location. Put where it is. Put the address. So I don't know, every business is different, but you'd be surprised how many times you get in the car and it's like, where are we going? Not sure. Mayflower? Where's that? Washington? I know that. I don't know. Put the building in the room if you know. These hotels are huge, you know. Find a contact person. Put a phone number. These are practical things about speechwriting. Isn't just as you all know, speechwriting isn't just cranking out the words and the outline. Speechwriter is sort of like being the body person sometimes. And these are kind of things that if nobody else catches, you can at least be there to catch them. Because I'll tell you, speechwriter's in your title. If something goes south, even if it's not your official responsibility, if it can be tied in any way, shape, or form to the word speechwriter, welcome to the torture chamber. How long is the speech supposed to be? How long are you set aside for speaking? The duration. Is it Q&A? Is it just speech? Is there somebody introducing them? If so, who? How long are they going to introduce them? What's the introduction provided? You have a text in the introduction, so the speaker can read it in anticipation of going up. Think like the speaker. Think of every picayune thing that you might want as a picayune speaker and put it on that sheet. And then have that sheet ready. Even if the speaker never asked for it, you'll be covered. What's the nature of the audience? How big are they? Are they seated around tables? Are they seated in chairs? Are they seated in folding chairs? Are they seated in soft chairs? They're going to be outside. They're going to be inside. Speechwriters at the presidential inauguration had to think about that because people were outside and it was cold. Not only was it cold at the moment, people have been standing outside for a long, long time. They were cold, and you know what else? Here's a cool thing. They were wearing gloves, which meant that when people applauded, it wasn't going to be as loud as everybody expected. That's the kind of stuff you got to think down the road about. And the typical speechwriter does not think about that. But you can. And the cool thing is, there's not a formula to follow. It's not like, well, I took Mike's seminar and now I know all this stuff. No, it's just stopping and thinking through a realistic situation, what the expectations might be. It's putting yourself there. It's just doing this